Are we live?
Yeah, is it not loading for you?
It's showing on my side. Hey, everybody. It's still showing that we're scheduled. We're live. I didn't get any notification that we are live, so welcome in. This is GC Live here on Gamecock Central. There it is. Now it's showing me that we're live.
Yeah.
Hope you're all doing well. Happy Wednesday. I'm like awkward pausing at the beginning. Happy Wednesday to all of you. We hope that you're having a great week so far. Jack, how are you?
I'm doing good, Kendall. Doing good. Football is finally in the air, and we're getting ready to roll for the season here. I can't believe it. August starts in 2 days from now, and it's gonna be here before you know it with preseason camp, and the season is around the corner. So looking forward to it. How are you doing? Okay, I think Kendall is having some technical difficulties, so let's try to pop her back in just a moment. But hope you guys are all doing well. Again, thank you guys for joining us today. And Kendall, are you good now? Are you good?
I was having a little bit of a Wi-Fi issue that explains why I didn't notice that we were live until 20 seconds after we actually went live. But yes, and yeah, as you were saying before I cut out, I just cannot believe that it's almost August. I feel like this summer has absolutely flown by, and we are right at football season, which is so exciting. I can smell the fall in the air. I can feel just the vibes are getting stronger for football. I can hear the college game day theme song in my head. Like, it is just right there, and I can't wait. But Jack, you've had a fun week so far. You were out at Birdies with Beamer on Monday. The first question is, before we get into anything that Shane Beamer talked about, is how did you play?
Me personally, I struggled at first, lost a few balls, and I'm not a great golfer. I'm not. I like just playing for fun, having a good time. As we got going, though, we played 18 holes, played a lot better. Had a par by myself on 10, I think, or something, which for me, I'll take,
Nice.
Didn't lose many balls after that. The team in general, not to throw anyone under the bus, but we didn't play great. We finished tied for last. And now I say we were tied for last, but keep in mind, par was the worst score you could get on each hole. We finished with 71 overall. Sterling Sharp's team, who's won this thing a few times now, they were great, and I think they finished 52. And then a bunch of teams in the middle were upper 60s. So we're talking about a few stroke difference between last place and being right in the pack in the middle. So overall, we had fun. We played okay, I guess, and so it was a fun time though, for sure.
Well, those scrambles are tough. Basically, I mean, if you get a par in a scramble, you're in trouble. You gotta
get under. That's the thing.
It's tough, or I should say birdie at maximum, but it is tough in those competitions. But hey, hats off to you for going out there and doing it. It's always so much fun. And Shane Beamer also talked, so you did a little work there as well. So what did he say, Jack, to just sum it up? What were some points that he made that you're like, okay, yeah, we need to chat about that on GC Live?
All right, let's just get the big thing out of the way that everyone is always curious about. Rasul Faison, still nothing there as of right now, and Shane is confident that the NCAA will do the right thing. We've heard him say that now a few times, but as far as that goes, nothing new. The one thing I will say that I did take away from it was that, of course, Rasul right now is not eligible to play. We don't know the answer one way or the other, but as of right now, he's going to be practicing with the team, as Shane did say. Until he's told otherwise, he's going to be out there practicing with the team. So expect, we'll see on Friday what it looks like when the media is out there for preseason camp on day one. But assuming he's out there, I think South Carolina is going to assume that he's going to be, a part of the team and everything. And I'm sure we'll get to talk to Rasul a little bit more tomorrow. But again, the whole thing's been dragged out. We've talked about it plenty before. I'm not going to rehash it like we have before. Still no answer. We'll see what happens there. I did ask Shane about Jeff Collins, who it was the latest hire to the coaching staff. He'll be joining as a senior defensive assistant on the defensive side of the ball with Clayton White. And some things I took away from why Shane decided to bring him in were, number one, if it's going to be the right it's got to be the right hire for Shane. He's not just going to bring people in just to fill out, spots, right? He's going to bring in he's okay with having a smaller coaching staff. Like I think South Carolina on their staff directory only has like 35 people on staff. Now that probably doesn't include like, interns and other people and stuff, but 35 listed on there is a lot smaller than the 50 and 60 plus that you see at other schools around the country. And Shane's okay with that, right? He'd rather have a smaller staff that are the right people than have it overflowing with just people that maybe aren't the best fit. And that's what he sees here with Jeff Collins, is that he's the right person to bring in. He's a former head coach, and now you have 4 former head coaches on staff at South Carolina, so that's another guy to pick, Shane's brain and stuff, or Shane can pick his brain. But he's also bringing like 30-plus years of experience in the coaching world. He's been a defensive coordinator, 6 years in the SEC as a DC. He also was at Alabama during Saban's first year. So a lot he can bring to the table there in terms of experience. And, I think one thing that, again, we'll see what happens in the future, but obviously we know Clayton White, South Carolina's defensive coordinator, definitely probably received some interest in the head coaching space this past offseason. And obviously he's still at South Carolina, but you never know. He's a name that you want to probably keep an eye on going into next offseason here of, okay, maybe he's a name that gets hired for a head coaching job somewhere. I think Jeff Collins is another guy that could probably slide into that defensive coordinator spot if need be. But this is a pretty good defensive staff with Jeff Collins, Torian Gray, Travian Robertson, Sterling Lucas, obviously Clayton White at the helm of it. It's looking pretty good there. So those are probably the main things that stood out. Again, Shane didn't really talk overly long. A little bit about Collins. I did ask him about injuries, and that'll be something that we'll get more in depth on tomorrow when we meet with him at Media Day. But that's really the main takeaways from that. And so.
Well, good stuff, Jack. And yeah, that's always such a fun event and always great to hear from Shane Beamer as well. And we'll hear a little bit more from the team on Media Day tomorrow, which we'll get into in just a little bit. Something that I did think was interesting, and this is over on GamecockCentral.com. It's an exclusive article, so make sure you're subscribed. We won't get into all the details of it, but a couple more answers came in terms of who has stood out on special teams. And that's an area that Shane talked about at SEC Media Days. And it's an area of focus because South Carolina is losing a ton of guys that were massive contributors on special teams last season. So we got a couple more answers there, Jack. And I don't want to say too much about it because I want to encourage everybody to head over to GamecockCentral.com and check out that article. But Nick Harbert was a name that was mentioned.
Yeah, no, you're right. And Nick Harbert, is someone that I think Wes posted the story the other day at not Media Day, but Birdies with Beamer, talking about with Joe DeCamillis that, Nick Harbert is a guy to definitely keep an eye on in the return game. And look, South Carolina special teams, they're going to be filling out every spot. So kicker, punter, holder, long snapper. I mean, they're filling out everything. And that also includes punt returner and kickoff returner. So Nick Harbert is a guy that we know his speed. We know he's probably the fastest guy on the team, one of the fastest players in the sport of college football. We saw him return a few kicks last year, but I think it's something where you see how big he is. You see how hard he is to probably tackle. I mean, I honestly would not be opposed to it. And we get the question here from Big Red. Do we really want Harbert to be on special teams, seeing as he's so important on the offense at receiver? Yeah, I totally understand that perspective, but why not? Why can't he do both? Why can't he be a consistent kickoff returner for South Carolina and also be, a starting wide receiver for the team? I don't think it takes much away from him to do a little bit of special teams here and there, seeing as he's big, athletic, quick. Those are all the tools you need to be a return man. And also he's a pretty good receiver too. So I think it's going to be something where we see him do a little bit of both, and I think it's not anything really to be concerned about. And you're on mute, by the way.
I am on mute. There we go. I'm having a tough day, technology-wise.
It's okay. It's okay. We're not fully integrated.
Guys, I'm tired. I was in Chicago this last weekend, and even just the hour time difference, really just took me out being in Chicago. You were in New York. Didn't the Yankees lose?
They were awful. Awful.
To the Phillies.
Yeah, we left probably like 8th inning. It was, and we just went to the bars nearby after. It was awful.
The what's it called? What's the name of it?
Billies.
Billies.
Yeah,
Billies.
I got a T-shirt from Billies, so good time out there. But yeah, my brother and I probably spent a few hours there after the game, so it was a fun
Jack,
time.
you texted me at like probably 10 o'clock in the morning,
Oh,
Chicago time, maybe 9 o'clock in the morning. And it wasn't like clicking in my mind that it was an afternoon game at Yankee Stadium. So I'm like, why is Jack already at the bar?
Pre-game, nice and early in the morning. Now, we got up there probably a little bit before 11. Took the subway in, which was much easier than like Ubering or whatever. But yeah, and then the game sucked. I mean, it was awful. I mean, nice being at Yankee Stadium, but the team did not look good. So we'll see. But it was a good time. How was Chicago?
It was amazing. I love Chicago. It is so much fun. It's incredible in the summer. It's amazing. I was there for the crosstown series between the White Sox and the Cubs. Friday's game, the White Sox won and very decisively. And then Saturday's game, it was all the Cubs. So it was fun. A little back and forth. Only a few fights in the stands between fans. I'm being actually serious, but yes, it was a blast and it was so much fun. These games were at Rate Field where the White Sox play, so had a really great time.
You know what the weirdest thing that I got out of my main takeaway from this weekend, though, being in New York, before we come back into football for a second, it actually has something to do with football. Philly fans are strange. I know they're crazy and stuff, but every time the Phillies scored a run on Saturday, and even Friday too, and Sunday, the Philly fans would start doing the Eagles chant. Like they would do the EAGLES. I'm like, you guys are at a baseball game. What are we chanting about the Eagles for? So I thought that was super strange. But yeah, that's my main takeaway from my trip to New York.
Well, the Phillies went from Yankee Stadium to guaranteed Rate Field now. So they're now playing the White Sox. So they just went from one team to the other, Jack. But I'm glad you had a good time. Let's continue with the football discussion just a little bit more on special teams because a couple other names were mentioned in that category. When do you think, Jack, will have more clarity on what special teams will look like with this group, obviously, as we inch closer and closer to the season?
I think once we start getting, again, we have not gotten the full script or practice schedule yet for the fall. We only have through Saturday, which is a little bit different than what we've gotten in the past where we typically get a full slate of everything going on. Once the team gets into scrimmages, I think that's when you start learning a little bit more about, okay, who's separating themselves, who's looking good in live game situations. That's when we're really going to know, okay, like if it's returning and punt coverage, the specialists like kicker, punter, holder, all that stuff. We feel like we have a good idea of some of the guys that might be in that. But again, it's kind of up in the air. Because again, going back to spring, I think we can all pretty much assume Mason Love is going to be the punter for this team. But now you get Max Kelly joining the fold as a freshman, who joined in the summer. Does he take kickoff or does he take kicker duties, or does it become a situation where Shane Beamer briefly mentioned it a little bit during the spring or at one of his welcome home tour events? Does Mason just pull double duty? That's something that's going to be interesting to see. And again, to answer the question, like I said before, rounded out here, I think it's something we see kind of answered as we get into scrimmages here, whenever those might be here in a few weeks.
Well, Jack, you did a great article on GamecockCentral.com, and it is about some of the storylines heading into this season. And there are definitely a bunch on both sides of the ball. But I think we got to start defensively because that's where a lot of questions come in. And we talk about guys that South Carolina has ultimately lost, whether it's to the NFL draft, the transfer portal, graduating, and trying to fill those roles. And a name that comes to mind absolutely is Kyle Kennard. And that is one of the points in this article. How do you replace a guy like him? You get Dylan Stewart back, which is obviously great for the Gamecocks, but replacing a guy like Kyle Kennard, that's not easy to do. So who do you think could be a potential replacement for a guy like Kyle Kennard as we head into this 2025 season?
Yeah, and first off, I'm not taking credit for a story that Chris Clark wrote.
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, Chris, I'm not taking credit for your story, but you wrote a great
Chris,
story.
you're the best. Sorry.
It's all good.
I was going to try to give the credit to Jack because he sent it to me. So I'm like, oh, Jack totally wrote this.
Yeah. So it's like, it's
No,
a team
that's
effort.
Chris Clark.
Now, all good. Now, I did actually, I'm glad you asked that question, Kendall, because I did ask Clayton White on Monday at Birdies that I asked him, is there anyone that you're seeing making strides from the spring to now that you're really excited about on defense? And the guy for him, it has to be Brian Thomas Jr., who has a lot of experience. He'd be on the other side of the ball across from Dylan Stewart at the edge position. And you mentioned Kyle Kennard. Who replaces that guy? Because those two, Kyle and Dylan last year, were a wrecking crew. I mean, you kind of, if you're an offensive line, you have to figure out, okay, who do you kind of pick here to go double team and go after? And it's not an easy decision because Kyle Kennard nearly broke the South Carolina single season sack record while Dylan Stewart was breaking records as a freshman. So it's a really tough thing to figure out there. Now, this year, I think we can kind of safely assume now that Kyle is with the Chargers and out of the picture at South Carolina, teams are going to be very honed in on Dylan Stewart because that's the guy they know is one of the top players in college football on defense. He's going to be potential NFL draft pick here in 2 years, early rounds. That just based on that alone, Dylan's probably going to get most of the attention from offenses trying to block him. But Brian Thomas Jr., I feel like has always been slept on, and he's someone that, look, Kyle Kennard is definitely bigger than Brian Thomas Jr., and Clayton White did mention that. But Clayton also said that BT definitely brings something different speed-wise than what Kyle had, a little bit of different energy. So I think it's something where I'm not expecting Brian Thomas Jr. to be the next Kyle Kennard and just pick up right where he left off. But I think he's someone that he's going to hold his own out there, and he's going to force defenses to, if he starts, assuming he does, I think he's going to force defenses throughout the year to kind of what we saw last year. You're going to have to pick and choose between guarding, double teaming a guy like Dylan Stewart, or you got to put a little bit more emphasis on Brian Thomas Jr. And maybe that actually works out better to where if teams really are so worried about Dylan Stewart getting to the pass to the quarterback, maybe it opens up an opportunity for a guy like BT to slide in there and make some big plays and get some hits on the QB. So we'll see what happens, but that's one guy that it definitely is going to be super intriguing going into preseason camp.
Well, as we continue with talking about these storylines, Jack, we got to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor here on GC Live.
Yeah, so talking about Clint Hammond of CMG Home Loans. So there's never really a better time to buy a home than right now. You're still in summer, it's hot out, but you know what? It's that perfect time of year to go out there and buy your dream home, or maybe you just need help with your mortgage. Buying a house, it's super complicated. You don't know where to begin. Trust me, when I eventually get there towards buying a house, I know it's going to be complicated, and I know exactly the guy I'm going to. It will be Clint Hammond of CMG Home Loans. So Clint has been in the housing industry or mortgage industry for more than 20 years now. He's also a lifelong Gamecock fan, and he's a longtime supporter of Gamecock Central. So you're in the right hands with someone like him, as he'll be able to help you and take you through the process step by step and get you on that way to buying that dream home, or like I said, helping you with your mortgage. If you're interested, give him a call, 803-422-6797. You can also go to clinthammond.com for more info, and the NMLS number for him is 71597. That information will be above us here on screen all show long.
Thank you for everything, Clint, as always. And yeah, I keep looking outside. Everyone's probably like, why does she keep looking outside? So we have a game tonight, and apparently I'm really hoping this doesn't happen, but it's supposed to rain right around now in Charlotte, and I have to go to batting practice after this. So I'm like looking out there just to see if it's starting to rain at all. It's like really bugging me. That's the worst part about baseball. People always ask, like, baseball compared to hockey, what do you like better? And I really do like them both, and it just depends on the time of the year. But one thing that hockey absolutely has over baseball is I don't have to stress about rain. I'll just go. There's no stress about it raining or the game getting postponed or delayed or canceled or whatever it is. So that's why I keep looking outside. I've noticed that I've done it quite a bit. So anyways, let's keep talking about the defense. Another point in this article that I think is interesting, a safety spot to watch, obviously trying to fill the role of Nick Eamon-Warry, who is one of my all-time favorite Gamecocks. And we're so proud of him, obviously moving on and pursuing his dreams in the NFL. You feel like a guy like Peyton Williams would take that spot. He's filled in for Eamon-Warry before, but Jack, what do you think? Do you think that's a sure thing at this point, or do you think there's somebody else we should keep our eye on?
I actually wrote about that a little while ago today. And again, bring up Clayton White, again, speaking with him at Birdies, that was something I asked him straight up is like, how do you replace a guy like Nicky Minwari? And, you can go check out the story, but that's the first thing I posed in the first sentence is, how do you replace him? And the simple answer, I think, is that you don't. And in Clayton's opinion, you try not to necessarily think about it as replacing Minwari, but rather you're just trying to get the next right person in there to help, fill that role. And it's a big void, right? Nick was your leading tackler last year and 3 years earlier in 2022 as a freshman. I mean, this is a first team All-American last year, an All SEC freshman, a really high caliber player that we're talking about here that has a really big frame, big size. Clayton knew that that's something you're going to lose eventually, but it's also his football IQ and just how smart and intelligent he is on the field. That's an underrated factor that he considers the hardest thing to replace with a guy like Nicky Minwari. So you mentioned Peyton Williams. That's the main name, I think, to keep an eye on going into camp here as someone that could easily just slide in and fill those shoes. We saw it last year. Vanderbilt game, DQ Smith is injured. Peyton Williams slides in at safety, makes a few tackles, has 2 big pass breakups, including one on a 4th down stop in the 3rd quarter of that game that South Carolina went on to win. He also, obviously filled in when the whole Minwari sitting out the second half of the Citrus Bowl last year. Peyton Williams slid right in and did a good job. So he's someone that South Carolina is high on. Clayton knows, firsthand that he understands the defense as good as anyone out there, and he's a big-time security blanket with some talent that can easily just slide in there if need be. But I think some other guys to obviously keep an eye on, what happens with a guy like Brandon Cisse, or, what do you do with Jalen Kilgore? Does he play nickel? Do you put him at safety? Like, where do you put him? I think David Busey's another guy to keep an eye on there, and you obviously also have some freshmen coming in. So a lot of options there. If I had to just put my money on it right now, I think we probably see Peyton Williams as strong safety, and then we see DQ Smith at free safety. I feel like that probably makes the most sense. And then you have Jalen Kilgore over at nickel and doing his thing over there just like last year. So I think it's going to be tough to replace Nick. Again, leading tackler 2 of the last 3 years, but Peyton has obviously shown in somewhat of a small sample size now that he can go out there and do his thing out there.
Well, Jack, let's switch things up a little bit here and talk about the offensive side of the ball. Another question mark that we kind of have going into this season is just seeing what Mike Shula does with his first full season as the OC for South Carolina. And we know that he has a great relationship with Lenora Sellers, and he was given a ton of credit for developing Lenora Sellers all throughout last year. I mean, we literally saw the growth of Sellers right before our eyes throughout last season on a week-to-week basis, and now he has the opportunity to lead the offense. And I think a lot of people will wonder what that will kind of look like. So if you gave it your best guess right now, what do you think South Carolina's offense will be all about this year?
I think it's going to be about protecting Sellers, number one. Protection has got to be – I thought it was all right last year, but it's got to be better. And I think part of that is, we saw a lot of times where Lenoris would improvise last year. And it's not a bad thing. It's probably one of his best strengths as a quarterback is that he's able to make things happen that just you don't see it all too often. Like the Clemson game last year, that 3rd and 16 play where it's like you're backed up and you got to make a play here. And you expect him to probably throw the ball in that situation, but he's running for touchdowns and breaking out of tackles. So his size is a gift, and it's something he needs to use to his advantage this year. So I think that's probably where you start with this offense is letting Lenoris do his thing out there. The other thing is I think the receiver room is going to be much improved this year. You have guys that are back for another year in the system, learning things. I don't know how much different the Mike Shula offense will be from the Dow Loggins offense. Obviously, I think you take things from what Dow did well with Lenoris and apply it to Mike Shula's system. But I'm interested to see how much they rely on the run game versus Lenoris with his legs and the pass game. We know with Faison, we don't know if that's a sure thing, if he'll be playing or not. We also don't know what the RB situation looks like if Faison's not available to play. I mean, Oscar Attaway's out there. You presume he's the starter, but what about a guy like Augustave, or you have the two guys redshirt last year with Jawarn Howell and Matt Fuller? It's something to really think about there, but I think this offense runs through Sellers first and foremost, and then you kind of piece it together after that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how much Sellers can improve and make his game even better under Mike Shula.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see how well the offensive line can protect Lenoris, because as you said, he made a lot happen last year just improvising because he had to, and that is such a strength of his. But you kind of hope that doesn't always have to be the case. And I feel like that's something we've talked about over the last several years, is the offensive line and just how vital they are. And even in the Spencer Rattler era, like his last year at South Carolina, that was a huge point of concern and a huge question. So I feel like we don't talk about them enough, but just how good can this offensive line be this year? Because that will be so impactful to how well South Carolina does from an offensive standpoint. And then we know with Lenoris, he can improvise, he can run, but he's also got to have some receivers to throw to. And he's going to have a young receiving core this year, Jack. We've talked about it a lot on the show, but of those young guys, this new receiver class that South Carolina just brought in, who are you most excited about? Who do you think can be like an immediate impact player of that group?
Gosh, that's a tough question to answer, because you have so many freshmen joining the fold this year. And I asked Mike Furry about this on Monday. Everything keeps going back to Monday for some reason, but I'm glad you're asking these good questions, because it gives me stuff to talk about. With Monday, with Furry, I asked him a lot about the freshman receivers. Actually going to do a piece on those guys coming up this week when we get to talk to them tomorrow at Media Day. But with the freshmen, it's like Mike was just saying that a lot of them are pushing the veterans. They are really good players that are pushing them to just for playing time and stuff. And so you really could go a lot of different ways with who you pick. I don't think there's a wrong answer necessarily. Now, not everyone's going to get on the field. You're looking at probably a 3 wide receiver set, maybe 4. And you also have to factor in, you have Nick Harbor, Jared Brown, Mazio Bennett, Vandrevius Jacobs, who apparently is looking really good according to Furry. I think those are your 4 top guys right there. But if I'm picking like one freshman that, I don't know, because again, it's like you really could go any way, to be honest. I'm going to say a guy like probably Donovan Murph. I think he's someone that, enrolled in the summer, but again, just because he came in the summer doesn't mean he can't make an impact right away. I think any of these guys will, and you see what Murph was able to do in high school at Irmo. He's someone that I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does. And if I'm wrong on it, okay, but I feel like that's probably something where any of those freshmen out there could be a day 1 impact guy.
Well, practice starts on Friday at what, 9:23?
I think it's 9:33, and then Saturday's 10 minutes earlier. So
one of them is 9:23 and one is 9:33, and that just cracks me up. Please ask Shane about that. I want to know why it's at 9:23. Like that is just crazy to me. Like, why is it not at 9:20, 9:25? I think that makes sense. But maybe, it's the way they operate. It's how they do things there. I'm not going to question it. As long as they win, I'm not questioning it. Jack, they'll have practice on Friday, and then Thursday, tomorrow, is media day. So as if you haven't asked enough questions and done enough talking and spoken to Shane Beamer, you'll have another opportunity to do that tomorrow. We have had a lot of questions answered, but is there anything tomorrow in particular that you want to find out more about, want to get an answer to questions-wise? Like, what is it tomorrow that will be your goal?
Well, I asked him injuries the other day, and he said wait till Thursday to get more of a concrete answer on that, because he had to, I guess, meet with the coaching staff and the trainers and all that yesterday. And, he said he'll give us a more clear answer on Thursday on that. So that would probably be one thing. You want to just see how the health of the team is going into the year. Obviously, I don't expect much of an answer on Rasul Faison. I don't know what would change between now and then. It just feels like we're never getting an answer on this, but hey, who knows? I don't know. I mean, again, he covered a lot of stuff on Monday at Birdies. I don't know. It's a tough question to answer, because it's like, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know what you ask, and that's different than what came on Monday. Like, obviously, he's going into year 5, so I think that's something that's interesting. Is just kind of time flies, to be honest. I mean, it feels like yesterday South Carolina was just getting a new coach when they fired Will Muschamp, and then hired Shane Beamer in December of 2020. It's crazy. So, and Big Red does say it's going to be busy with media days. And, honestly, the Hall of Fame game, I think it's a bit overrated, to be honest. It's cool, but it's something that I'm not watching intently. Like, I'll have it on in the background and kind of just, watching football, I guess, a little bit, but it's the preseason. Like, we're not seeing anyone crazy play. Like the Chargers are playing Trey Lance as their starting quarterback on Thursday and not Justin Herbert. So there's that. But it will be a busy media days for sure.
Jack needs to lock in because it's almost time for Bills football. And
around the corner. Around the corner.
It is right around the corner, and maybe this will be the year, Jack.
I don't know about that, but I guess you could dream. I am excited for Hard Knocks, though. The Bills are the team featured in Hard Knocks, so I am actually really excited. I don't know when that starts, but I'm excited to watch that.
I am ready to defend my title as the fantasy football winner for the Charlotte Knights League. We had 14 teams, by the way, so that was not an easy win. I had to manage my team as the general manager, head coach, president, owner, and CEO of
You're doing it all.
Darnold Palmer. That's what it was.
What was it?
Team Darnold Palmer.
Darnold Palmer.
Instead of Arnold Palmer.
Did you have Sam Darnold as your quarterback or something?
I did, but he was originally my backup. I had Brock Purdy as my starting quarterback for the beginning of the season, and then Sam Darnold started playing so well. I'm like, all right. And then I made this trade for Saquon Barkley right before the playoffs started, and that was game-changing. That was everything. I traded CeeDee Lamb for Saquon Barkley and a couple other people.
Wow.
Too. Yep, and I picked up Mike Evans off waivers. I don't know why he was ever on waivers in the first place, but
that feels pretty.
Kyron Williams was on the waiver wire, got him at one point. It's all about the general managing of the team. So this year, I'm ready. I'm back again. It's time to defend my title, and I am locked in on fantasy football.
We're ready. I mean, look, we got the comment here. 5 more weeks. We're 32 days away now from Sunday, August 31st. I mean, it's going to be here before you know it, and I'm really pumped for it. I think it's going to be a fun season, and don't know how it's going to go, but it's going to be fun for sure.
Well, we'll be there with all of you for the ride of the 2025 season for the South Carolina Gamecocks. We got more to talk about. It's still talking season, so the next few episodes with Jack and I will be about storylines. They'll be about questions that we need answered and what we think will happen in the season, because we're still a few weeks away from Jack and I getting to do our game analysis, which we absolutely love, and that is our favorite part of doing GC Live together, is talking after games and leading up to games. So can't wait for that to be back in a few weeks, but until then, Jack, we continue the talking and we continue the writing and the videos over on GamecockCentral.com. So go check it out. Follow us on social media at Gamecock Central. Thanks everybody for joining us. We appreciate it. We hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday. This has been GC Live here on Gamecock Central. For Jack Veltri, I'm Kendall Smith. We'll see you soon. Bye everybody.